Hello, I'm Michael Sherraden. I work at the Center for Social Development at the Brown School at Washington University, and I'm here with Margaret Clancy, and who also works at the Center for Social Development, and we've been working together for, I don't know, 25 years or more. Um, and we have a story to tell about the development of this work, and the topic is the focus on building assets in low-income families. And I'll sort of start it off with a quick summary. Um, but before this work started, there was no discussion of the assets or wealth holding of income families in social policy. It was all about income, and whether people needed income. Of course, people did need income, but there wasn't a realization that even very poor people also had to accumulate a little bit of assets for example, for enough money to move to a better neighborhood, or so that there was, some hope that their child might be able to go to post-secondary education. Just even little things in life require, though those are not so little, require poor people also have to accumulate assets. And this literally was not a conversation. No one used this language. So I wrote a book in 1991, long time ago now, called Assets and the Poor, and basically just made this point. And as a result of that book, we've been pretty busy ever since. And so we're here to tell that story. Um, let me frame the context here for the Brown School. We are delighted to work at the George Warren Brown School of Social Work. That's the way I still think about it. I think that's still the legal name, the George Warren Brown School of Social Work. And we're working in a tradition that was really created at the school by two great deans, Benjamin Youngdahl, who was dean from 1945 to 1962, and Dean Shandi Kanduka, who was dean, I believe, from 2000, from 20, from excuse me, and Shandi Kanduka, who was dean from 1974 to 2003. I believe those are the dates. So two very long-serving deans, both of them very interested in social policy and social development. And by social development, we mean strategies that are not just about helping people, but about how people can do better. These are solution focused strategies more than problem focused strategies. So, Center for Social Development works in this tradition. It's a long tradition in social work. This tradition actually, these two deans actually moved the school from being a local regional school to being a number one ranked school. And I think that these two deans have powered the school's advancement in that way. And the school still is very highly ranked because of the work of those deanships. So we work in that tradition, and we're here to talk about asset building and social policy. And I'm gonna frame it here. I was a young professor and had written this book, and in my class in the master's program was Margaret Clancy. Margaret Clancy was already a vice president at a financial institution, Boatman's Bank, I think, which now got incorporated into Bank of America, and she ran 401(k) plans. So she knew a lot about finance and about plans for asset accumulation. And she was in my class because she wanted to do something that was more meaningful in her life. I believe she has. And so I'm going to turn it over to Margaret.
Well, thank you, Michael. Um, pardon me. As Michael said, I had a career. This is my second career. My 25 plus years spent at the Center for Social Development under Michael Sherraden's leadership is my second career. And I was in a social policy class with Michael Sherraden just after he had written the book Assets in the Poor. And I had read the book because I was working full time. I wanted to make sure that I was kind of ahead on reading because I was traveling. And after class, I asked Michael, well, how will this policy be put into place? And how will it be administered? Will there be financial education? And how will you keep the accounts? And so Michael looked at me and said, "You're going to figure that out." So 20, probably 7, 8 years plus, we worked to implement a research experiment. It was Michael's vision, and the research team is large, but it began in 2007 with children in Oklahoma, and there's been subsequent interviews with those families and a lot of publications and analysis and policy work in states, which led to millions of children in the United States over multiple states having automatic accounts at birth with money put aside for post-secondary education. And at the time when I was in Michael's class, I never really realized that I would be able to have that impact in the world. You know, you have goals and visions, but certainly they exceeded my expectations. And I really believe that's because I was aligned with talented people, professors, Michael Sherraden, and then co-workers at the Brown School, who we worked together as a team to make the research, to communicate the research and influence policy across the country.
So let me just pick up there. Margaret did come with her expertise, and we were working on, you know, how could low-income people accumulate assets. And Margaret, because of her background running 401k plans in a larger, this is the savings plan structure. It's not just it's just not individuals with an account in the marketplace. So this knowledge and experience has really proved to be fundamental, because we did try to do asset accumulation by matching people's savings accounts and encouraging, and we were able to do that. But it was, and the results are positive. When people accumulate assets, they do a little better, and we can measure that. But these projects were not sustainable in the long run, nor could they reach millions of people by being accounts in the marketplace. They had to be in a structure. And the structure that we we looked around for a structure and the two biggest candidates at that point were the thrift savings plan at the federal level, which operates for federal employees, and 529 college savings plans, which operate at the state level. It's really federal policy, but it operates and is delivered at the state level. And every state has a 529 college savings plan. So these were the two biggest candidates, and we decided to go with the 529 college savings plan. And that was a big challenge, because 529 college savings plans, as many listeners will know, have basically served well-off people. They're plans that give very nice tax benefits to people saving for their kids' college education. Very few poor people participate in them, because poor people don't get the same tax benefit. That's part of the reason. So, but we thought we could take this structure and change it, basically, so that it served everyone. Now that's a big agenda, and we have been working toward that agenda for the last since 2007, when really we started planning that project in the year 2000. But we didn't implement till 2007. There was a lot of work to do to plan. So we selected this design very purposefully. We basically changed a 529 policy in Oklahoma. We selected the state very purposefully. Took a long time to make these selections, do this design work, and we basically changed a college savings plan so that it could be opened at birth for every child automatically, and that there would be some additional subsidies for lower income households, and there would be some basic communication to people about how their kid was doing and that kind of thing. We didn't make it. We basically were creating a public policy, not a local program. So we didn't want a lot of staff time to be involved, because we wanted it to be scalable to large numbers of people. So this is basically policy reform and not a local project. Um, and that project has been highly successful. Seed for Oklahoma Kids, which is what it's called, or Seed OK. Seed OK evidence has been very positive in terms of how people are doing. So the kids are better off. Their families expect more of them in higher education. The kids have better social emotional development. The mothers have a little happier outlook, less depressive symptoms, and looking at the world, and a whole series of pretty positive outcomes that we can document because, and I think this is an important point here too, because the Brown School, a research oriented school, we're researchers. So this is a very high quality policy experiment with treatment and controls, selection in a full population across the state of Oklahoma. So our sample represents and can speak to the whole Oklahoma population. And we selected Oklahoma because it has large subpopulations of African Americans, Native Americans, and Hispanics. And we wanted those subpopulations because those populations are all challenged in asset accumulation. They have very little asset accumulation. So our research design speaks to, in a very rigorous way, speaks to these issues. And so the evidence that we have about how people do has very strong policy implications. And because of that, and this is our strategy. Our strategy. We're applied social researchers. That's the toolbox we have. We're not advocating. We're not politically organizing. We're not. We don't have a big communication plan. What we have is good applied social research. And on the basis of that, we have been able to uh, start discussions about policy change, and Margaret has said that we now have a number of states across the country, some red states, some blue states, some purple states, who are opening an account for all children at birth with some initial deposit. These policies are not yet quite what we would hope they will be, but they are a very important start for this policy idea. So, Margaret, you want to add?
Yes, I was just going to say, we purposefully conduct the research and publish in academic journals, but also create policy briefs and communications that can be understood clearly and in short format. So news organizations and policymakers can read them. Busy state treasurers and senators in various states. And so our research, Seed for Oklahoma Kids, garnered attention throughout the country. There were articles in the New York Times and in multiple media throughout the country. And then state treasurers, I presented at the National Association of State Treasurers conferences multiple times and had one-on-one conversations, testified at state houses for legislation, just communicating our research to explain the outcomes that we have for Seed for Oklahoma Kids. And as Michael said, states such as Nebraska, Pennsylvania, California, multiple states are implementing this plan, automatic accounts for children, and money is going to children for their post-secondary education. And community organizations are working with the state governments to communicate this policy. And I lost my train of thought there.
I would say Margaret is understated here as usual. Margaret has advised in all of these state policy plans. So this is also we are researchers, but we also take our data to the world, and there's been an awful lot of policy advising and helping with policy design work. If I could add, this work has also had quite a lot of impact outside the US. So there are now a number of countries that are opening accounts for every kid that we're not doing that when we started. And we have advised in all of these countries also. For example, as you might expect, Singapore has done asset building more than any other country, but they weren't doing it for kids. So they started accounts for all kids since we started doing this work, and we have worked with them. Israel is funding an account for every kid who's a citizen child. Both Arab and Jews and the minority group Druze and others all have accounts in Israel. Well, I'm very pleased to say that some of the Palestinian children in East Jerusalem also have accounts. So, we have big visions in this work. So, we're hoping there could someday be an account that included all Palestinian children in the region, and we're in those discussions. But of course, that's a very fraught area of the world now, difficult. But we're there and working on it. Um, Other countries have also, Kazakhstan just early this year opened an account for all children. And interestingly, Kazakhstan is doing this because they're an oil and wealth rich country, but low income, low middle income population. They can see that their fossil fuel wealth is going to disappear and that they will have to build a different economy. And what they have decided to do is invest in all their children so they can be educated to build a different economy. So on that basis, later in November this year, which is a couple weeks away, really, I will be at the COP29 meetings in Azerbaijan. These are the international climate change meetings, and presenting the Kazakhstan case, and along with another colleague, uh, Aytakin Husseinli, who's from Azerbaijan, actually. And she did research, CSD sponsored research. She was my PhD student also, that helped set the stage for this. But Kazakhstan decided to open an account for every child and put half of their annual revenues from their state fund into this account. A lot of money. Even in US dollars, this is a lot of money. Last year it was $700 million to start these accounts. But but that's in a low income country. So if you put that in the US context, we did arithmetic, this would be about 50 billion US dollars if to make that comparison. So Kazakhstan is trying to change its economy. We will be talking with other low-income countries about what that have oil wealth, about using that to build a new economy and doing it by investing in all of their children. This is probably going on too long for this discussion, but
So I'd like you all to finish up, especially you, Michael, because you sort of inspired Margaret. But I'm wondering about your ambition to become a social worker. If you could say something about that as a young person, and to have this incredible, both of you, this incredible impact for millions and millions of children. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Susan. I'm delighted to be a social worker. I think the world very much needs social work, not just for helping people, which we also are totally in favor of course, but also for developing people. Humans are very social. That's how we have been so dominant as a species. And a lot of times that gets forgotten. We think the world operates by economics or by political factors, but actually humans are social, and so they're but being social, I like to say, being social requires work. It's for this is a sort of larger meaning of social work, and that's the way we think about it. We think about building social institutions, social policies that can make the world a little better. And that's the context that we work in. And that's the way I've always thought about social work from the outset.